Cathy O'Brien, she's been speaking out for over 35 years. Her experience in MK Ultra, mind control, and healing from it. Knowledge is our defense against mind control, and Cathy's experience on a White House, Pentagon level empowers her to insight. Her experience at the Pentagon, let me back up. Her experience on a White House, Pentagon level empowers her insight into far-reaching effects of mind control on society today, and what you can do to reclaim, protect, and expand your free thought. And I'll add to that, thank you guys, that's good prompt, I can read it now. Sun has changed. So Susan and I had the pleasure and blessing of being able to pick up Miss O'Brien at the airport, and just thoroughly enjoyed her conversation. Has amazing stories to tell, and when we delivered her to the house that was receiving her, she was staying with some friends here, and the household lit up when Cathy O'Brien walked in, and they were hugging this lady and saying, "You changed my life, and we appreciate everything you do." So we have an amazing guest speaker. Her name is Miss Cathy O'Brien. Please welcome her with a real warm applause.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Cathy O'Brien, and I was used on a White House, Pentagon level under MK Ultra Mind Control. I was deep in the swamp among perpetrators who steal elections, who use drug and human trafficking across open borders to fund their globalist agenda, and who are using mind control to usher it in. The formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military, or the world. Trauma is a basis of it. The formula for mind control was brought into the US through Project Paperclip, when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the US. With them came the formula for mind control. The scientific formula includes sleep, food, and water deprivation, and capitalizes on our brain's defense mechanism to trauma. When we experience trauma, the neuron pathways in the brain shut down and leave our subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated. Without a conscious mind filter, our subconscious just takes information in and then feeds it back and becomes our thoughts and ultimately our actions. It had been found in Hitler-Himmler research that there is no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. This pedophile agenda that's being pushed on a global scale is a mind control agenda. When we understand that, we start gaining the knowledge that is our defense against it. We start gaining the knowledge that arms us with the truth necessary for effectively protecting our children, because our children have been targeted horrifically to create a more compliant society. This globalist mind control agenda has been sneaking into place for many generations, and it's how we have reached this point now where child sex trafficking has become one of the most lucrative businesses in the world. People wonder how we got to that point. It's because we weren't paying attention. We were being deliberately lulled to sleep by mind control. Well, it's within us all to heal. Having been around these perpetrators of mind control deep in the Washington, D.C. swamp, I can tell you these perpetrators are not like us, and they do not like us. They are a low vibration, dark, negative energy force that feeds off of dark, negative energy. That's why we experience so much trauma these days. It's to lower our vibration. It's to shut down those neuron pathways in our brains so that we can't think, to gather our strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. And that's their point. Because I can assure you, their greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit. It's such a high vibration, they can't reach it. They can't affect it. The only thing they can do is use mind control to stop us from being able to think, to access that strength of the human spirit. In that regard, mind control is a spiritual warfare. And it's one where we have the victory within us. We just forgot. We forgot because we have been led outside ourselves for generations now to look to big government, big pharma, big tech, big cult-to-cult religion to tell us how to live our lives. When in fact, we've been blessed with that all along. We forgot. We forgot to look within. We forgot to access that power. It's our saving grace. And it's what this great awakening is all about. It's people reclaiming their free thought and starting to access that strength of spirit again. We have a great awakening and a spiritual evolution that's going on, and these perpetrators are doing all they can to keep us dumbed down and compliant. They need us compliant for their globalist slave society agenda. That agenda is what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, Joe Biden, and all those self-appointed, self-anointed global leaders term New World Order. This has been creeping in for a long time. And it has kept people from understanding that we have the victory, that these perpetrators only have as much power as we give them or let them steal. We have all the power. We need to remember that. As a young child, I was subjected to horrific abuse. I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family. My father was sexually and ritually abused. My mother was sexually abused and trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. These secret societies, these lodges, are where the secrets on mind control are kept. Secrecy is a problem. Truth really does make us free. And that's why I'll continue to speak out until everyone everywhere wakes up and remembers who they are and why they're here and reclaims their own power. Thank you. My mother was, her sexual abuse and being trafficked to that Blue Masonic Lodge was absolutely horrific for her, so she certainly didn't protect me from my father's abuse, which then extended into child pornography of me. As I experienced his abuse from infancy, I couldn't think to know what he was doing was wrong. I was just an infant, but my brain knew. And the neuron pathways in my brain shut down and repressed that traumatic memory so the rest of my mind could develop and function normally. That's the mind's sane defense to trauma too horrible to comprehend. It's the saving grace that we've been blessed with. Our brains are so resilient, they're so amazing, and we have this defense mechanism within our brains that we need to understand so that we can also reopen those neuron pathways and reclaim our free thought. So as my father's sexual abuse extended into child pornography, more neuron pathways shut down and were repressed deep into my subconscious mind. Then he began trafficking me to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. More neuron pathways shut down. The local politicians that hung out there were very much aware of mind control. We wonder how it is these secret societies and Masons place people in key positions of power and influence. It's by design. It's what they're supposed to be perpetuating in order to bring in this globalist agenda. The second reason for this slave society agenda is to dumb us down and keep us compliant, keep us at a low vibration, dark negative energy force like they are, but also to align us with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is low vibration. It's artificial. We have the victory. We have nothing to fear over artificial intelligence when we gather our strength of spirit and understand that with the strength of human spirit, we have wisdom that outthinks their criminal minds every time. But they don't want us to know that. So instead, they follow a DARPA-generated artificial intelligence plan from within these secret societies. When my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails in Muskegon, Michigan, back around 1960, one of those local politicians that I'd been trafficked to since I was a little bitty toddler approached my father and told him he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would agree to sell me into the CIA's MK Ultra mind control program. My father agreed. He later received lucrative military contracts for selling me into the project. But this shows how long our courts have been corrupted to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia. After we brought in Project Paperclip's Nazi and fascist scientists, the 1947 National Security Act went into place to keep things secret and also to invoke in any court so that this criminal activity could go on. We wonder why our courts are why there's no justice in our court system. It's because we have been conditioned for generations to allow for national security to be invoked and allow for our children to continually be abused. This local politician was Gerald Ford. This is the same Gerald Ford that went on to become the unelected president of the United States. As Ford's political career escalated, so too did my victimization and MK Ultra mind control until I was used on a White House Pentagon level. After my father sold me into the project, he was instructed where to take me and what I would be subjected to. And that included satanic ritual abuse. Satanic ritual abuse, it was found through the Hitler-Himmler research, was just almost as bad as sexual abuse of a child. The blood trauma is absolutely horrific on anyone. That's why so much Satanism has gone on and why we saw so much of that 2020. It's because they were using it to mind control us all. When we understand our brain's response to trauma, that's when we need to be safeguarding our free thought, because that's when they're going to be eroding more and more of our freedoms. It's so important to understand what their agenda is about. Of course, Gerald Ford went into the office of president. He was granted that because he is the one who covered up the Kennedy assassination. When the Kennedy assassination occurred, it traumatized the whole nation. That's when these global perpetrators took over so strong in the United States. Look at Gerald Ford's cabinet. He had George Bush to head the CIA. He had Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Henry Kissinger, Nelson Rockefeller, and Jack Valenti of the Motion Picture Association of America as his press secretary. That was because the media was actively involved in suppressing the truth about what had happened with that global takeover. That was a very pivotal turning point in American history, and it was the first of many national traumas that gave these perpetrators so much power. Jack Valenti is also the one who gave us the term conspiracy theorist. It was to be applied to anyone who is questioning the media narrative, to shame them into being quiet. When people question the media narrative, that's exactly what we all need to be doing. No matter what we're called, we need to be seeking truth. We need to be strong enough to be able to do that. But in order to do that, we have to be able to think free. It was also in the wake of the Kennedy assassination that the electronic voting machines came into being. Those electronic voting machines were rigged since their inception, and they were designed to place these perpetrators in key positions of power and influence as they slowly took over the government. We've got to get rid of those electronic voting machines. This has been going on for far too long. After my father sold me into the project, I was taken to Mackinac Island, Michigan, where the governor's mansion is located. And there I was trafficked to various global government leaders that were actively involved in furthering Adolf Hitler's New World Order agenda. Mackinac Island, Michigan was the Epstein Island of its time. And little children like myself were taken there, and the blackmail operations were already in full swing. They're also in full swing at these secret societies like the Masonic lodges. Many of the people comply with the blackmail operations as part of initiation, but there's other ways that they're compromising people with blackmail videos of a little child with someone. They either coerced, they're bought off, or they're drugged. I know this for a fact because I was used in those films ever since I was so tiny. I have waited a lifetime for people to wake up and realize that what we're seeing with Epstein Island is just one tip of the iceberg. We need to understand how long this has been going on, and that the ultimate point is to dumb us all down and make us compliant and target our children above all else. Mind control is used because it's against our human nature. It's not anything that we would choose to do. But when we're subjected to so many traumas, we lose our ability to think clear and understand what in the world has been going on for so long. After I was sold into the project, I was taken to various NASA, DARPA, and military installations for MK Ultra mind control programming. My owner in MK Ultra mind control was U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd. Senator Byrd was in office for over 50 years. He certainly wasn't going to vote in any term limits, but he was in office for over 50 years and held our country's purse strings to make sure that money was allocated to this globalist agenda as he slowly sold us all out to the New World Order. Senator Byrd was my owner at the age of 13, and as my owner, he directed my activities. He decided which black ops I would be used in. He decided who I would be prostituted to and when. Senator Byrd was actively aligned with George Bush Sr., with Bill and Hillary Clinton, and they were at the top of much of what was going on with the globalist agenda. Also, it's important to note that in Gerald Ford's cabinet, the first depopulation agenda went into place. He came up with it with Henry Kissinger. You can look that up for yourself. I encourage each and every one of you, research that depopulation agenda that Gerald Ford put in. Research for yourself what Project Paperclip was all about. And start to understand that what's being done to our children is a very deliberate dumbing down, and they're counting on us to allow it to go on. My experiences in MK Ultra mind control are detailed in my 1995 testimony for Congress, Transformation of America. National security was invoked on that testimony because every word of it was validated by clean members of law enforcement and intelligence. The evidence has been in against these perpetrators for a long, long time. We just don't have a justice system to prosecute them through. We have a long way to go to clean this mess up. Now that people are waking up, we've got a lot ahead of us to take back and restore our freedoms. But it begins with understanding where the roots of corruption are planted. When I wrote Transformation of America in 1995, it was like prophetic. It detailed who was going to be placed in the office of president right up until Hillary Clinton was to usher in the New World Order 2016. Now, when you read Transformation of America, it reads like a history book. If you don't read, it's also available on Audible. The information has been preserved. The integrity of that truth has been preserved because you have a right to know and a need to know exactly what went on. Very fortunately for me and my victimization, there are a lot of people in government and a lot of people in intelligence who are very disturbed about the erosion of our constitutional values. There are many people who have cared all along. While I was being used on a White House, Pentagon level and being prostituted out of the State Department, all the way back in the mid-'80s, these perpetrators that I was around were afraid of Donald Trump. Donald Trump actively opposed MK Ultra mind control, sexualization of children, drug and human trafficking across our borders. They feared him because they couldn't blackmail him. They couldn't coerce him. They couldn't buy him off. They couldn't compromise him. And instead, he stood strong against them all along. There are so many good people out there in government who haven't had a voice. And they've been doing all they can behind the scene for a long time to wake the people up. Because it's up to each and every one of us to wake up and understand what's going on. Politics can't save us from this mess. Politics has got us into it. It's so important to know that these good people have been in positions of power and influence, doing all they can all along. Fortunately for me, intelligence insider Mark Phillips, who worked the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences to preserve the sanctity of free thought, was so high up in intelligence he could wear any hat. He could be FBI, CIA, NSA, Secret Service, anything he needed to be in key positions at key times. And what he saw going on within those agencies and within government absolutely appalled him. He also found our birthright information on mind-brain function. That defense against mind control that we've been blessed with all along. Our birthright knowledge to the resiliency of body, mind, and spirit had been suppressed under national security. Ever since that 1947 National Security Act went into place, that pertinent information, our birthright information that we've been blessed with, was buried under national security. Mark couldn't do anything about that. He couldn't reveal that information because he was bound by laws of sedition. He was absolutely livid to see how blackmail was being used to compromise judges and politicians. He was especially livid to see little children being taken in and out of the White House. He couldn't say anything about it, so he decided to do something about it. And how fortunate for me, he lifted my daughter and me right out of the Washington, D.C. human trafficking swamp, all the way back in 1988. That's a long time ago. That was way before anybody even knew there was a swamp in Washington, D.C. That's way before people knew that our children were being sexualized. That was before they knew that our education system had been sold out to global education very deliberately in order to indoctrinate our children with an education system that was based on Hitler's youth. Our children began being taught what to think rather than how to think. Computers were put in the school system, and the information, the history, was rewritten so that the children don't even know what our constitutional values are about. All that was deliberately done. Senator Byrd made sure that the states became dependent on federal funding for education until the Department of Education came in and brought about this global education program that is now called Common Core. We're seeing the results of it, and it's been deeply rooted. It's been rooted so long that many teachers were indoctrinated in the school system to indoctrinate. We had many doctors that were taught to follow Big Pharma and only do as they were told and prescribe those drugs instead of listen to their patients and treat them. Because when you follow the money in the education system in the universities, it goes straight to Big Pharma. Follow the money in everything, and it's gonna go back to the same handful of puppet masters every time. And they are only a handful. There aren't that many of them. They're just trying to appear to be more than they are by manipulating our minds into fear and our minds into compliance. When Mark lifted my daughter and me out of the Washington, D.C. human trafficking swamp, he handed me keys to my own mind. That information he found on our birthright information for mind-brain function. He handed me those keys. Just like my brain shut down neuron pathways from my father's trauma while I was an infant before I could even know what he was doing was wrong. By the time Mark had rescued my daughter and me, I didn't know good people existed in the world. I didn't know that there could be any hope at all. But still, my brain knew. My brain knew that my daughter and I were safe, and those neuron pathways started opening up. When Mark rescued us, he also rescued all our farm animals. He rescued our cows and horses and guineas and chickens and dogs and cats. Because he knew that people who abuse children abuse animals and vice versa. So he rescued those animals. And since I lost my free thought, I had been blasted into more primitive parts of my brain where their heightened senses are, where there's heightened intuitions, heightened sense of vibration, of knowing who's good or bad by feeling that aspect of things. And into the part of the brain that knows telepathy, that can connect silently with animals. I was very connected with my animals. My horse would come up to me And if I needed to get across the farm, she would just walk up in front of me and wait for me to throw my leg over and climb on. No words, no saddle, no bridle, just telepathy. That horse ran from my handler, Alex Houston, who had that farm, because it was always abused by him. I don't know how the horse even knew to trust, but when Mark came up to rescue us, my horse took one look at Mark, walked up to him, took a look at the horse trailer, and loaded herself up. Animals have so much sense. That horse sense is very real. The animal therapy for people who've been abused is absolutely real because it helps connect into those heightened senses. I'm so fortunate that they showed me the way to trust. Once I was able to trust Mark, I could listen to what he was telling me to help me heal. Mark did not deprogram me. He handed me those keys to my own mind. He told me, he said, the pen is mightier than the sword. Whatever you're seeing as those neuron pathways were opening and the memory started flashing on my mind screen, he said, write it out. Pick up that pen and paper, because the very act of moving a pen activates the logic, critical analysis part of the brain. It's where we process information. So as the memory started surfacing, it was taking that compartmentalized, emotionally incomprehensible memory, shifting it over to logic, where it was written out on paper and consciously seen. All of a sudden, healing happened all at once. Psychiatrically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, all with this one simple little brain trick. This simple little brain trick is one we all can use to cope with the traumas that we experience today. When traumas happen, like 911, or mind control masked as a virus that was unleashed on all of us 2020, we need to pick up that pen and paper and write out our fear, write out our trauma, write out what's immobilizing us, and then add a solution. And I spell solution with a S-O-U-L. Comes from soul. We need to get that solution because that'll make the brain fire in more ways. Again, mind control shuts down neuron pathways. We need to open them. If we put writing by hand back into the school system, that one thing alone will stop the indoctrination of our children. That is such a simple solution. Get those computers out of there. The information's been changed anyway. We know how much garbage is on the internet. It's very important for all of us to reconnect to nature. Mark taught me that too. Get our feet on the ground. Take your shoes off. Feel the grass beneath your feet. Actually feel the wind in your hair. Feel the sun on your skin. Reattach that way. Take a walk with your dog. Reconnect with nature, because nature is our nature, and our nature has been under attack for a long time. Our humanity has been under attack to align us with a very dark, negative energy, to align us into compliance, and to align us with artificial intelligence. Mark knew from having studied mind sciences that without free thought, there's no free will. This is what I learned from experience. Without free thought, I had no free will. Without free will, there's no soul expression. Without soul expression, we lose our discernment of truth. We lose our compassion for each other. We lose our ability to align with the divine within and gather that strength of the human spirit and that infinite power of love to stand for the things that we believe in, to effectively protect our own children. Mark knew all that. And he knew that ultimately people needed to remember who they are and why they're here. And that's why we began speaking out. My daughter Kelly had been thrust into the corrupted Child Protective Services system. I watched that system being set up. Senator Byrd made sure that went into place. He even had an office in the FBI building where he started the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children as a catch-net operation for children who had been trafficked. And they would thrust them into the Child Protective Services where they were further abused and trafficked. That system is detailed. You can see all the roots of corruption in my book, Access Denied for Reasons of National Security. It tells Mark's and my journey through the corrupted justice and mental health system to help my daughter, who was medically kidnapped out of a hospital and taken into custody of the state of Tennessee. The details of who was involved and how we dealt with this situation are in Access Denied. I encourage you to look into it. And I've only got a couple copies back there, so you can always get Audible or contact me on my website at trans-formation.com. It's pertinent information because we've got to unravel the corruption that has been going on for so long. It was love for my daughter Kelly that compelled me to start speaking out. It wasn't bitterness, it wasn't hatred, it wasn't fear. It was love for her and needing to raise awareness so that she could receive the kind of compassion and treatment that she needed to be reunited with me. That was absolutely imperative. I don't live in fear. I don't have hatred and bitterness. Those perpetrators got that from me the first 30 years of my life, and they're not going to get that energy from me anymore. I am going to live the love I am every day, and everything I do is going to be out of love for humanity, love for my daughter, love for the children, and with the full knowledge that love is the most powerful force in the universe. I loved Mark so much. He wouldn't have anything to do with me, though, not at first. He said, you have to know who you are in order to have something to give in a relationship. Wow, how was I going to find that out? After following orders for 30 years, I didn't even know how to think. And after being told by perpetrators what I was, how was I find out who I am? But I was sure motivated. Love is the greatest healer, and it was a great motivator for me to hurry up and heal as fast as I could. Besides, I needed to be strong for my daughter. So I looked within myself, and I found myself at the base core energy of my being, and that energy is love. I decided rather than try to love myself, I would live the love I am. I would live my life's purpose and make sure that everything I did was for that divine reason, to make that positive difference, to shine the light that's needed so desperately today. These children who have been trafficked, these children who have been ritually abused, all can heal because we have been blessed with resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. The simple methods Mark taught me for reclaiming my birthright to free thought, free will, soul expression is in PTSD Time to Heal. That's the information that Mark found buried under national security that he couldn't release. Well, as Mark and I spoke out for 30 years together, all across this nation, people began waking up. They were waking up more and more. They were seeing what was going on in the school systems. They saw the UN coming in. They saw that we were losing heroes that were being killed. And as fast as the people began rising up, another trauma was being enforced. Back then it was the Oklahoma City bombing, Waco, Ruby Ridge, whatever was needed to keep people more compliant. And that was having an effect on people, so they weren't waking up as fast as they are today. But nevertheless, they began waking up. And as Mark and I were speaking out, Mark was also connected into a global intelligence that was determined to unravel this new world order mess, to unravel the mind control that had been imposed on humanity. And when mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population as they fought to regain control, I released PTSD Time to Heal. I secured it on my website so everybody everywhere can have that information and start applying it to themselves, because every one of us needs to reclaim our free thought. We need to expand our thinking beyond what we think we know. As more and more people were waking up, as Mark and I were speaking out in the 90s, we knew that the only way that this new world order could be undone is if each and every one of us woke up. We can't wake up for each other. It's an individual journey, because ultimately it is a spiritual journey. As we reclaim our free thought and our strength of spirit, that is our own personal spiritual journey. It's one we all need right now. This great awakening is happening, and it's massive, but it's up to each and every one of us to know what our part is in it. By 2016, so many of us were awake and aware that we overrode the rigged electronic algorithm in the voting machines to vote for someone who was not Hillary Clinton in her new world order. And we got Donald Trump, the one that they feared the most, the one who was determined to expose drug and human trafficking across open borders and stop it, the one who wanted to wake people up from MK Ultra mind control that had been manipulating the minds of the masses for generations. It's absolutely amazing that had happened. Well, these perpetrators didn't see it coming, so they went all in with mind control masked as a virus. They made some big mistakes. They used repetitive media narrative to tell us to mask up, get the injections, social distance, but they also told us to shelter at home. That broke our routine patterns. When we break routine patterns, it forces our brains to fire in new ways. And the Great Awakening only accelerated, because these people are stupid. They are not intelligent. They always make mistakes. They are always flat linear thinkers. And we have the wisdom to outthink their criminal minds every time. We have the wisdom to outthink artificial intelligence, but it begins by reclaiming our free thought soul expression, tapping into that strength of the human spirit, align with the divine, and claim the victory that we were born with all along, just as I have. Thank you so much.